Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30, and I'd like to call the August 27th, 2026 work session of the Staunton City Council to order. Would a member of council like to make a motion to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas?
Madam Mayor,
Councilor Overholter.
I will move to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Woods. Mr. Blair, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Item 2, we have a presentation and discussion of the Staunton Public Library Annual Report from 2025 to 2026. Ms. Beauregard.
Yes,
Hi.
Sarah Scropus, our library director, is here this evening to give her annual report and answer any questions.
Wonderful. Good evening, Ms. Scrobus. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. As mentioned, I'm presenting a general update on the statistics and activities of the library over fiscal year 2026, which of course ran July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. I'd like to start with the people part of the library. Most people's thoughts when they think of libraries go straight to the books, but any librarian worth their salt knows that people are the heart of the organization. This year, we welcomed, either for the first time or after a long absence, over 2,000 new cardholders to SPL, which brings our total registered users to over 16,000 people. This is a 3% increase over fiscal year 25, and that takes into account the yearly purge of inactive cards that we do in accordance with state records retention procedures. Nearly 160,000 people came through our doors. That's around 470 people per day that we're open. And I'll remind everyone that we are the single library location with the most weekly hours in the Valley and beyond that. We're the only ones with 7-day-a-week service within quite a long drive. There are no Sunday hours over to Charlottesville, up to Winchester. I think you have to go to Botetourt or the Richmond area if you want to visit a library on Sunday, or come to Staunton.
Go Staunton.
Our seasonal Sunday hours do resume soon on September 13th. Our computers remain a popular service, providing over 8,000 users with access to the internet, Microsoft Office, online education, health, government, and other resources. We're excited that IT was recently able to purchase and replace our old computers, ensuring that Staunton residents have up-to-date technology to meet their needs. Computer usage grew over 7% last year, demonstrating the great and growing need for digital access in our community. This number doesn't even include our Wi-Fi or our mobile printing statistics. It's just the sit-down public access computers on the first floor. And just to show you how we're trending in comparison to previous years, you can see that we've kind of plateaued for visitors over the past 3 years, but I think that's kind of normal. There's not room for infinite growth in a building that's, 30,000 square feet. Onto our collections. We added almost 15,000 new physical items this year, bringing our total in-library collection to over 112,000 items. In terms of digital materials, that number is always fluctuating because of licensing agreements and changes with our vendors. We typically have over 2 million items to check out online at any given time. Our Library of Things remains popular, and it takes down financial barriers to access for collections of art, citizen science materials, musical equipment, cultural passes, and of course our newest collection, outdoor and camping equipment, thanks to our invaluable new partnership with the Community Gear Library. And for those of you who don't know what that is, you can use your library card to check out tents, camp stoves, sleeping bags, child carriers, and more after a brief safety orientation from the Community Gear Library volunteers. Staunton is surrounded by a plethora of beautiful natural areas, so it's exciting that we can facilitate local residents' exploration of those parks and forests. Finally, it's one thing to have books. It's a whole other thing to connect people with things they are going to enjoy reading. And so we celebrate all opportunities to provide reader services through curated lists, personalized suggestions, and displays. So if you are looking for a good book to read, do not hesitate to ask us. Overall, our circulation remained steady this year. We circulated over 450,000 items, including renewals, and that comes out to roughly 18 items per Staunton resident this year. You can see the breakdown by category in that pie chart. So digital is 17%, while physical materials make up the other 80%, which is about 375,000 items that were checked out. Some of the most popular titles of the past year are shown on the right, and that's another strong showing by Virginia authors. So John Grisham, David Baldacci both live in Virginia, and Virginia Evans is a graduate of JMU. Again, you can see our multi-year trend. We're holding pretty even the past few years. Digital circulation, though, has continued to grow. It's up 8% this year with over 77,000 items checked out from Libby Overdrive and Hoopla. As you can see, audiobooks are still the preferred format.
Excuse me, Ms. Grobus. So an audiobook is what I download on Libby, or is that an ebook? Or is the audiobook the one I check
Audiobook
out?
is the one you listen to. Ebook is what you read, like on a Kindle or Kobo or other
I see.
e-reader. or
And
on
what
your
if
phone.
it's on a CD? Do you still have?
That's physical, so that's part of the other portion. Mhm.
You have to, there are three platforms.
Libby and
Libby-
Overdrive are the same thing.
Okay.
Libby's their app. Overdrive was the first one. And then
Okay,
Hoopla's-
when you start it up,
Mhm.
doesn't say Overdrive on it.
It says both, maybe. It's just how they branded
We'll be
the-
sure I wasn't missing
mobile
out
app.
on anything.
Yeah, you can also try Hoopla too.
Yeah.
For the 5-year comparison, you can see there's been an incredible rate of growth for digital circulation. It's about doubled in 5 years. And I will mention that the cost of digital materials is really becoming one of our biggest challenges. It's a burden to libraries across the country right now. We love providing these collections. I'm a faithful Libby user myself, but I don't know that people fully understand what the price points are for libraries for ebooks and audiobooks, and it's kind of becoming untenable for us. We've had to forego purchasing some popular materials. Sometimes the licenses can cost upwards of $150 for a 24-month license. It expires after 2 years, and then we either have to repurchase it or just not have it. So libraries around the country are really facing this challenge.
Is that for one copy?
One
digital
copy.
copy of one book?
One user at a time, yes.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best, though, to balance, our budget with basically hugely increasing demand. Moving on to programs, as you're probably aware, we host a wide range of events every week, every month. Families can attend multiple story times each week to encourage early literacy development. We've hosted authors, craft programs in conjunction with such partners as the Staunton Makerspace or a state arts grant. We have book clubs, including a new audiobook walking club, and monthly concerts from the Friends and more. Last year, we hosted 670 programs with over 33,000 attendees. Summer reading participation increased over 11% this year,
Oh,
and participants logged over 11,000 hours of reading during June and July. So Staunton, consider this a challenge to top that next year. 110 outreach visits and events made up a portion of those programs I just mentioned. And as you can see, we take many opportunities to get out into the community. We have special focus on early childhood centers and schools. We've also recently expanded into senior living communities and apartment and townhouse complexes in the city. We also love being at our big community events, so you'll see us soon at the African American and Multicultural Festival and Pride later this fall, just like we're at every year.
So what does that outreach look like, say, at one of the places that you described there, let's say Brookdale? What do you do?
So at Brookdale in particular, our community engagement librarian, Christine D, will take what she calls like a small pop-up library. She carts around books in her car, takes them out. We'll check out materials to people in those communities, sign people up for cards, and sometimes answer tech questions too. For something like the early child care ones, they're doing story time and just promoting good literacy habits early on. For something like the festivals, as you see in the picture, we're just there to be out in the community, introduce people to the library, and sign up for cards.
Ms. Grobus, could you go back to the programs because one of them interested me and I really wanted to hear about it. I saw it on Facebook.
Okay.
But you have now a walking group where everyone listens to an audiobook and
Yeah.
walks together.
Yeah, so that like it's kind of becoming a thing around the country, and that's the bottom center picture, the very
Okay.
first one.
Right.
And they'll meet at the library, weather depending.
Mhm.
And you can put on your headphones and just be in company with people and not talk to a soul, or you can talk about your audiobooks with people
Mhm.
as you walk down to the park and back.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit of mental and physical exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great idea, I
Yeah.
think, for folks who
That's
want to get out.
that's
but-
Carrie Whitlock, our technology
Oh,
services
Carrie.
librarian. Some of the things we're really proud of this year include our Community Gear Library partnership and launch that I mentioned earlier. SPL is the second library in the Valley to offer this unique service. We've also been thrilled to really reinvigorate our art exhibits and displays to showcase the talents and interests of our community members. We've partnered with over a dozen local artists and organizations to create displays that range from the history of the Temple House of Israel to mycology, to the geology of Oman, to paintings on display. We've also continued the tradition of professional growth for our staff, hosting another all-day in-service development day for our staff in February. We encourage them to both attend and lead trainings in person and online. We've also been able to promote or transfer a couple employees to match their skills to different departments this year, and it's been fun to watch them in their new positions.
So, don't mean to stop you,
That's okay.
but I do have a question. Could you elaborate on the Community Gear Library?
So that's the tents, the sleeping bags. We have a partnership with Community Gear Library. It's a separate nonprofit. And we have an agreement with them where the collection is housed at the Staunton Public Library, and you check it out with your library card, but they maintain it. They orient people on how to use it safely and return it in good condition. But like I said, you can just check out a tent and go camping thanks to the library. It's really cool. For challenges, we have seen a bit more staff turnover again this year. We have mostly part-time positions, so that's not unexpected, but sometimes it feels like we're fighting this constant cycle of recruiting, hiring, training. But we're really pleased with the people we've been able to onboard, and we think we have a very service-oriented team, and everything's going really well with them. We've also faced challenges in the book industry, the skyrocketing prices that I mentioned before, and one of the two main library wholesalers closed, completely shut down unexpectedly last fall. We did not utilize them. We used their competitor. But when Baker and Taylor shut down, it meant that all those libraries that were using Baker and Taylor to buy their books moved over to our vendor. So Ingram ran into capacity issues, delivery issues, just stock issues. So we had a lot of delayed shipments and we just couldn't get things for a good portion of the winter. It's kind of ironed out now. It seems like it's going a bit more smoothly. I know they've really hired and adapted to meet the new demand they're facing, but it's been a really major, like shocking disruption to the book world that affected not just libraries, but bookstores and other wholesalers. And then in addition, the tech protocols that we've relied on to send notifications via email, text, and phone to patrons have started to change over the last couple of years, and it's forced us to look for new solutions. It's made it a bit more complicated and a bit more expensive because now we have to use a third-party software to send phone calls and texts when we never used to have to do that before. But we've worked with IT and our staff, and things are running smoothly now. For the facility, our building continues to age. You know, it poses interesting challenges as a public library. Our front stairs were temporarily closed to shore up supports underneath, and a permanent long-time solution is in the works. We've had to complete replacement of an in-building transformer, which forced us to close for a day. I think it was in January or February. I can't remember off the top of my head. But naturally, the power had to be off to do that safely. Our staff, though, are very creative and responsive when we can be. Our team shifted books, requested the removal of shelving, and added new study furniture in response to many requests from patrons for additional seating and study areas. That furniture was paid for by donations to the library that had accumulated over time, allowing us to make that big purchase in the spring. Public Works was just able to add another outlet in that area.
I was gonna say, how, everyone has to sit in this one little
That's
tiny
right.
place
And
to
like take
plug in.
turns with their devices. You've probably heard me say one of the struggles of an old building is that it was, renovated pre-internets and pre-bring your own device. So there aren't a lot of places in the library where you can bring your laptop, but now we have a couple more areas. So that's good. And then finally, the other big facility project has obviously been the terrace. I'll show you a little bit more about that later. The Friends of the Staunton Library continue to go above and beyond as a volunteer organization. They contributed well over 1,500 hours last year. And I know for a fact that many of them underreported their hours or just didn't report them to me. So I think that number's a lot higher. Those volunteer efforts include those monthly lunch concerts, the book sale, which serves as a fundraiser and brought in over $5,000. And now the Adopt a Spot cleanups around the library and Churchville Avenue as well. They sponsor Down to the Park, so you'll see them in their reflective vests with their gloves and garbage bags. The terrace, of course, has also been a big project that's required a lot of volunteer time. And at the end of this presentation, I have some photos that I took today to show you the most recent developments. Our sister organization, the Talking Book Center, is still doing a fabulous job of meeting the needs of area's blind and print-disabled residents. Their 340 plus patrons borrowed over 19,000 items via audio and braille materials last year. And they continue to send out I-bill readers to vision impaired Virginians across the state on behalf of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. This year is their 45th anniversary, so they'll be having an open house celebration on October 8th. We hope you'll join us.
Ms. Grobus, can you just tell everybody how many localities are able
Yes,
to
so
access a talk? It's not just Staunton.
Not
This is
just Staunton.
Part of this.
It's the counties of Bath, Highland, Augusta, and Rockbridge, and all the independent cities within those counties.
And can you explain what the I-bill reader is?
Oh, sure.
It's fascinating.
The I-bill reader
Mhm.
is a small device. Since our paper currency doesn't have any tactile differences, if you were blind, you don't necessarily know a $1 bill from a $20 bill just by touch. And so you can insert the bill into this I-bill reader and it'll either give you an audio or vibrational cue as to what the denomination is. So you can have more financial security.
So cool.
It is really cool. So what's next for the library? We are going to continue collaboration and outreach. We've really been enjoying getting out into these new opportunities for outreach. I think those senior living communities are some of our staff's favorite new visits that they're doing. Our current long-range plan is set to expire, so we'll tap into the knowledge of consultants at the Library of Virginia to help us through the process. This is my third plan that I'll be doing as director. And so like before, I anticipate we'll be doing community surveys to get feedback about what people like about the library, what they like to see improve, and what they want that maybe we don't have. And finally, we're trying to cycle through our policies to ensure they're reviewed regularly and updated to reflect the library and community's needs for the coming years. So before I wrap up, I do have some additional photos of the terrace. I took these this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Did not look like that yesterday.
So you can see they've completed the hillside seating. There's 2 tiers built into the hillside now. And they've mulched now. They finished up on the right side and they actually did around the left side too after I took the photo. It's looking really great. We're very, very excited. But unfortunately, we did learn that this week, we learned that the terrace, parts of the walkway up to it need to be reworked. So unfortunately, I don't have a rescheduled date for the ribbon cutting to share with you today, but we'll get that information out as soon as we feasibly can.
And at this point, Ms. Grobus, it's not usable by anybody. Is it?
Correct, because it still looks about like this today. We'll have to get this shade sail signed off. And they still have a little bit of tensioning to do on it and everything too. And because we want it to be enjoyable by all, we want that sidewalk to be done. So people in
Yes.
wheelchairs or with strollers can also join in the fun when we have events up there. So I'm going to end on a really exciting piece of news. This past week, we learned that the Friends of the Staunton Library are the recipients of the 2026 Virginia Library Association Friends of the Library Award for their dedicated efforts to the Stanton community.
Wow.
This is-
Yay!
I know.
Oh, that's awesome news. Oh, that gave me tingles.
I know, got a little
Yeah,
emotional when I got
yeah.
that email. This is a statewide award, so it is really a true honor for them to be recognized in this way. And so if you see one of the Friends board members out and about in the community, I hope you'll take the time to congratulate them on this tremendous achievement. As always, thank you for your time tonight and your ongoing support of the city's public library services. I'm happy to answer additional questions if you thought of anything else along the way.
I appreciate all the ways that you try to reflect the community and people's interests and activities and what's going on. How do you make people aware of their ability to request materials?
Request materials?
Add to the collection a book that they want
Yeah,
to
so
read?
that's a good question. A lot of it is just in conversation with people when they ask us to help them search for something and we don't have it, our staff will offer them a request form. And we always give it to them with the caveat that this is for consideration. We don't necessarily add everything we get requests for because there's thousands and thousands of books
Yeah.
published and it's hard to start buying retroactively and still have the budget to go forward. We have an online request form too on our website. So if someone wants to request that we purchase an item, they can submit it that way. And we also often refer people to the interlibrary loan service where we go outside of our immediate Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro consortium. There's a small fee for that because those materials travel through the mail, but they'll often come from universities or other public library systems. We've had them come from England before even too.
I think that it increases the attractiveness of the option when people realize they're not just limited to what's in the collection
Right.
now, that they can ask for things, they get things through interlibrary loan.
Yeah.
Did those prompts come up with if they search for something and it's not in the collection, to say, hey, you could try interlibrary loan?
Unfortunately not. We're kind of limited with what the vendor can code into like a search result. It usually just says not available or nothing found, you know. But that's why those conversations and the connection we have with our patrons on a daily basis are so important because we will readily tell people about that.
Any other questions for Ms. Grobus or comments? Well, I just want to thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Grobus. It's
you.
always a great pleasure to hear about the library. You do a fantastic job, and we know your whole staff does as well. So
Thank you. Yeah,
just always look forward to.
they're the best. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
them. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item 3, we have a presentation and discussion. A presentation discussion of the City of Stanton opioid settlement funds. Ms. Beauregard.
Sure. Jesse Moyers is here this evening. It's been a while since we've given you an update on the opioid settlement
Yeah.
funds. And just to
Mhm.
remind you, this is a regional effort between Stanton. Jenny Newman is also involved in this. She's here also to answer any questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessie and she'll go through this and answer any questions you have.
Righty.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council.
Good evening, Ms. Moyers, and welcome.
So there are 4 different sources of opioid funds. There are direct distributions. Those are funds paid directly to the city. They started in August of 2022, so about 4 years ago. There are individual distributions that come through the OAA, the state. They're the non-competitive grants. The gold standard, which this council did adopt the gold standard, I believe it was April of 2023. And then the OAA cooperative funds. These are competitive cooperative partnership grants. Funds must be used for opioid abatement and remediation purposes. And to date, the city of Stanton has received a little over $500,000 of opioid funds. We've only spent $5,000, which was our share of the planning grant. The planning grant was for Waynesboro, Stanton, and the County of Augusta. We received a $100,000 planning grant. I believe that was in June of 23. So the Saw area did create the regional partnership in order to better leverage the local settlement dollars with the OAA and address the opioid needs across the multiple jurisdictions. Council did approve that cooperative partnership in August of 2025. So there have been several grants made. The first round of grant funding there was the Regional Prevention, Education, and Harm Reduction Services on the Office of Youth and the Central Shenandoah Health Department. I will note that the Office on Youth was, Jenny was not helping us administer these grants at that time. It was Anna Levitt with Capsol. And when Anna came to work for the city of Staunton, then Jenny volunteered to take over those responsibilities. And we are grateful for that. So it's a 5-year grant, $1.3 million. It is the objectives of this particular grant to expand mobile harm reduction outreach throughout the Saw area. Increasing access to services. Individuals may face transportation and other barriers. Provide individualized recovery support through the dedicated certified peer recovery specialist and case manager. And strengthen the transition from harm reduction to recovery through warm handoffs, peer monitoring. I believe there are 3 full-time staff supported through this particular grant. 1 for the Office on Youth, the Substance Abuse Prevention Educator, and then 2 for the Central Shenandoah Health Department, the Nurse Navigator, and the Community Health Worker. So the most recent round of grant funding, there were 2 awards. Bridging Harm Reduction and Recovery to strengthen peers. They received a 5-year grant. It's $863,300 over 5 years. That is to expand mobile harm reduction services across the Saw region by adding the full-time certified peer recovery specialist and increasing the mobile outreach locations. Other grant objectives are to connect participants to recovery and essential services by providing individual recovery plans and an assistant on accessing housing, employment, transportation, healthcare, and social services. Providing ongoing peer recovery support through one-on-one coaching, motivational interviewing, and trauma-informed services, including home visits, virtual visits, mobile outreach to reduce transportation barriers. And then Legal Bridge to Recovery is a grant for Blue Ridge Legal Services. It's $580,000 over 5 years. It will provide 1 full-time staff attorney dedicated to providing free legal services to low-income Saw residents and that are in recovery from opioid addiction. So those 3 grants for the city of Staunton, our share is almost $487,000 over the next 5 years. There are additional grants that are not coming directly from the city of Staunton's direct distributions that are coming from the OAA to the River Ridge Recovery School. Staunton was not initially part of this school, but they are now. I do not believe they have any students there currently. It's $3 million grant over 5 years and is managed by the Waynesboro Public Schools. And then the Valley CSB Crisis Receiving Stabilization and Detoxification Center, they are receiving funds directly from the OAA. That's $3.7 million. Waynesboro is the fiscal agent for that grant on behalf of Waynesboro, Staunton, Augusta County, and Highland County. So next steps to evaluate funding through 2039. The total allocation for the city of Staunton through FY31 is about a little over $1 million. We've awarded 487. So there are additional funds there available that there'll be another round of grant funding in the future. Future funds after 2031 from 2032 to 2039 is about another $500,000. So there's about $1 million left of Staunton's funding, either from the direct distributions that we have, our individual distributions, and the gold standard.
If anybody that, any organization feel that they could anybody organization that meet the criteria, can they apply for those grants through the Saw area or no? Y'all go by choosing who gets funding for the grants.
Can
Jenny, do you
nod
wanna
in the
speak
back
to
for
that?
him to go.
Yes, there was a committee put together for the last round of grants that included some community partner agencies and CAPSAW. And anybody who felt they met the criteria could apply. And then that committee looked at it, reviewed it, and gave recommendations to the group of administrators, city managers, and Jesse, who look at all those recommendations and make the final decision on what applications will move forward to the OAA. And then the OAA has final say.
Thank you.
So I believe the next round of applications will be in 2028?
Probably.
Okay, in 2028.
So the next round of somebody putting in an application is in 2028,
Yes.
when somebody can actually submit an application. Okay.
There a, like just a long open period for that? Is it a rolling period?
Period. The OAA has moved those different times. So it is actually open now for 2028 and it'll close in March. So we have some time to meet, see how many funds we want to put toward that, what that looks like as a community. Do the localities want to maintain some funds for themselves for, something they want to do directly in the city? That's a possibility. So those all need to be discussed. And then we'll move forward with the applications. If some come out for 2028 locally, that packet would go out probably October, November. To
Of this
move
year.
through the process to get to the opioid abatement at the Virginia level by March.
You're saying November of this year for the 2028 funding. Okay, thank you. Can I understand just one more time, to really understand, do all the localities have to agree on the way that the money is allocated? Or,
Well, the city
And-
does have the option to spend money locally in the
It's-
city if they
okay.
choose to.
okay,
But through the regional partnership, they do have to agree on those particular grants.
thanks.
So far, we do not have any city-only expenditures that anybody has requested from the city of Staunton. So it's all through the regional partnership.
No, this is a relatively new program. And so I don't know the measured results or if you're pleased with the progress of the program. Is it too much money, not enough money, just enough?
Yeah, it's too much.
We're talking about the slow spending, double hiring.
Yeah, both our office and the health department had difficulty hiring. The health department actually didn't hire at all in the first year of the
Mhm.
grant award. We did, but it took us almost 9 months in that first year to get somebody onboarded.
Right,
So we do not have tangible results yet, either of us.
right.
I do know Strength Peers received funds because they're based originally out of Harrisonburg, but had moved into our area. So they received funds from Harrisonburg and Rockingham, and they do have some successful statistics coming from that area and could show a need for this area to support the expansion. So they gave us some good data to award them. Same with Blue Ridge Legal Services, just a lot of data there of the need coming from our own drug court. So we look forward to the additional data that's going to be collected from all of this. But yes, it's fairly new.
Right. Well, it's
Ms. Newman,
positive.
some of the biggest winners were the Valley CSB Crisis Receiving Center. Is there an update at all? I guess we went to the unofficial ribbon cutting of breaking of the start of it. It was
Yeah.
all of the localities coming together to celebrate that.
That grant has been accepted. So the awards were just accepted this past week. They are moving forward and are giving me timeline updates. And they have to spend a certain percentage of all the other funding that they're getting from state and other grants first before they can start accessing this portion of it. But $3 million plus will go toward capital expenses, and then fixtures and onboarding is the plan right now. So that's a 2-year grant. Yes, that they are moving forward.
Yes. Terrific.
And I don't think I mentioned, but Augusta County is the fiscal agent for the regional opioid partnership. So they will be the ones that pay the grant awards out, and then they will bill Stanton for their share. You will see it on the first budget amendment to reappropriate those opioid funds so that we can make that reimbursement payment.
So if more money were to drop from the sky, what's the big opportunity to expand service and make a big difference?
There's never enough money for prevention, and the majority of this goes to prevention rather than intervention. Opioid abatement covers multiple areas. We are seeing nationwide a decrease in fentanyl, but we are seeing an increase in fentanyl-laced products. So that is becoming very concerning. So while methamphetamine is still the drug of choice among users in our area, we are seeing still an increase in opioid overdoses and fentanyl overdoses just because of tainted products.
When you say prevention, can you give me some examples of what that would involve? Or if you wanted to expand prevention, what is the low-hanging fruit?
What we're doing is education in the schools, and we're getting ready to support extended media campaign that Virginia Foundation of Healthy Youth has produced. I don't know if anybody has seen it. It's called Deadly Dose. It's out right now. That's the biggest thing, is education of the community, and then expansion of services where individuals who are using that we can work with their family members to understand how relapse occurs and how possibly their children or relatives do not start going down that same path. So those are the biggest areas of prevention that I see.
Any other questions for Ms. Moyard? Such important stuff. Thank you all for what you're doing and for giving us an update. Thank you, Ms. Beauregard, for scheduling this for us. Look forward to following the progress.
All right, thank you.
Super important. Thank you. All righty. I don't know that we have to take a vote on dinner break.
Yeah.
All righty. The work session for August 27th is adjourned. I hope to see all of you back here at 7 for more excitement.
Every one of you.
Everyone. Thank you all. Good evening. It's now 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the August 27th, 2026 regular meeting of the Staunton City Council to order. Please stand as you are able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's lovely to see so many people here. Thank you so much. This evening's invocation comes to us from Counselor Shepherd.
Actually, it doesn't. I chose someone else.
All right, who do we have?
I'd like to introduce to you a wonderful member of the community. Actually, doesn't really need an induction, but someone who embodies a true welcoming spirit. She serves as the Associate Rector at Trinity Episcopal Church right next door. The Reverend Kara Modisette reminds everyone that they are always welcome, whether it's for the Staunton Music Festival or if you're hungry and for a free lunch on weekdays, they're always welcome. So please say.
It's wonderful to be with you all this evening. Let us pray. Creator, God, Holy Spirit, Allah, Adonai, love that holds us all together. We call you by many names. We hear you in symphonies, in the wind of storms, the quiet of trees, and the languages of all people. We see you in the stars of the heavens, the height of our mountains, the deep of our rivers, and the streets of our city. We meet you at the table, on the trail, in church and mosque and temple and synagogue and chapel, on the sidewalks, in hospitals and schools, and in the halls of government. Most of all, we know you in the faces of our neighbors, the neighbors who are familiar and the neighbors we've never met. We give thanks for the people of this city, their creativity and love for our shared home. We give thanks for abundance and for generosity and for the beauty of the place where we live. We pray for our neighbors who struggle, for those who are marginalized, homeless, ill, or imprisoned. In a time when so much divides us, help us keep finding common ground. We give thanks for all public servants and pray especially for this city council gathered tonight for guidance and inspiration in their work for this city. To borrow from the prayers of Dolly Parton, a saint for our times, help us to do something in this world to make it a little better than it was, and to be a light and a vessel for good. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Kira. For my mayor's report this evening, I just want to remind everybody, which I brought up last council meeting, that the Staunton Montessori School is returning to Staunton after many years in Fishersville. They are having a block party for the entire community this Saturday, the 29th, from 1 to 4. There will be lots of activities for young children. And so if you have young kids or you're a kid at heart, please go to the new Staunton Montessori School. It's the old Stentler Complex on Thornrose Avenue. You can hear music by the Hot Mamas and tour the campus. You can also win prizes. I also wanted to give a shout out. I appreciate it when we give shout outs to people in the city who kind of embody kindness and the goodness and the neighborliness of the people of this city. I was recently in Collins Market, just across the street. I had worked all day and was leaving the iHub and walked into Collins and put a 6-pack of beer on the counter. My card didn't work. Little did I know that it had been blocked because there was a suspicious, something online was a suspicious purchase, so it was blocked. Rather than allow me to put the beer back into the freezer, a young man behind me said, never mind, just I'll pay for it. Don't worry about it, I'll pay for it. I mean, this was good. This was like $16, $17 beer. It was really good. And I tried to argue with the guy, and then he was doing something kind. So you always want to let somebody be kind. And his name was Josh. So I just want to give a shout out to Josh, who bought me beer. And also, I have a Nissan 2016 Altima. It's an old car, and it bottoms out a lot. And so the undercarriage is always dragging. This morning, I got stopped by a man on my street, and he said, hey, your undercarriage is dragging. Let me help you. So he went into his truck and got out a bunch of these ties, these plastic ties. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm going to work, but you should be able to tie them under, and then you won't be dragging and sounding like a freight train. And I just thought that was just another sign of kindness. We have a lot of infrastructure problems. We have plenty of social problems. We have a lot of things that we might disagree on, but I think we can all agree that there are very, very kind people in this city. And the city isn't this building or Trinity Church or the Temple House of Israel or any of our businesses. They're the people that use those businesses and run those businesses and sit in these chairs and those chairs. And I think that's what makes Staunton very special. And in that vein, since Kara brought up Dolly Parton, I think you've all noticed that the flags are at half-staff. She is an icon in the true sense of a word. That's a very overused word. But a lot of us grew up with her, and I never thought she would pass away. She was a role model when I was a little girl watching 9 to 5, if any of you remember that. really was very impactful to me. And she had a very similar upbringing to my father and my grandmother, in very, very, very humble rural area, in essentially living in a one-room shack with, your whole family and your in-laws and anyone else. And so I just feel that Dolly embodied the spirit of Staunton and showed kindness to everyone. She was a vaccine supporter when there was a lot of controversy around vaccines. She started the Imagination Library, where children who didn't have access to books would receive a book monthly for the rest of their childhood. And they've given away millions and millions of books all over the country to children. And I would like everyone to remember her with a moment of silence. So if we'll just remain silent for a moment and remember Dolly or anyone else you associate with kindness. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Would anyone else on council like to share? May I add one thing? I apologize. I want to remind everyone, it is September in a couple of days, and September means mischief and magic. Some people go screaming for the hills, and some people are very excited. I get very excited because I love mischief and magic. I wanted to just point out it takes scores and scores of people, of volunteers, to make that festival run. If you are able to volunteer, it's all volunteer run, then please go to their Facebook page, Mischief and Magic, and you have to scroll down maybe a week or so, and you'll see I think it's a tiny URL to find their Sign Up Genius. And there are lots of fun things you can do. It's a great way to become more involved in the festival itself rather than just walking around. So thank you. Councillor Campbell, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say welcome to members of Scout Troop 33 who meet at St. Francis here in Staunton. They are joining us tonight because they are currently working on their communications merit badge. And one of the requirements is to attend a local meeting and then kind of report back on a topic that they heard discussed.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll also add, just for everyone's awareness, it was a good, interesting planning commission meeting last week. After 2 years of work, the Planning Commission recommended approval of our comprehensive plan update. So that'll be coming to us next meeting. And then also, Planning Commission and staff have been hard at work trying to address some of the recent new requirements coming down from the state regarding new housing initiatives to help address the housing issues we face. And one of those is an update to the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, which is interesting, but it's interesting how this will play out. But I just want to commend staff there. I think they're doing a great job so far, and that'll be coming to us later this fall, probably.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell, for giving us that heads up. Any other councillor have an item they want to share?
Also wanted to give a shout out to an organization that I think helps bring joy and light to our community, and that's the Staunton Music Festival. They just finished their week or so run with multiple concerts per day, all through downtown, showcasing many of the historic venues that we have, Trinity Episcopal and Central United Methodist, the Blackfriars Theater, many of the concerts free, thanks to generous sponsors. That's a wonderful thing for the community. But it was great to see the visitors just flooding downtown, shopping in the stores, eating out, and enjoying the great music. And it's just another way that Staunton really shines and is exceptional, I feel, for a city its size. The Summerfest on Saturday was also a great event. All day, games, music, festivities, terrific event.
Thank you, Councillor Overholzer. Anyone else have something they'd like to share? Councillor Woods.
It's my turn.
Yes, ma'am.
The nominations committee. I would like to move to appoint the following individuals to boards and commissions.
Okay.
Brad Arrowood to the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission for a term commencing September 1st, 2026 and ending December 31st, 2026. Travis Kaysen to the Recreational Advisory Commission for a 3-year term commencing September 1st, 2026 and ending August 31st, 2029. Paul Sheffleton to the Stanton Youth Commission for a 3-year term commencing September 1st, 2026 and ending August 31st, 2029. Janet Ewing to the Blue Ridge Community College Board for a 4-year term commencing September 1st, 2026 and ending August 31st, 2030. Matthew Clemens to the Board of Building Code Appeals for a 5-year term commencing September 1st, 2026 and ending August 31st, 2031. And Rick Park to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for a 4-year term commencing September 1st, 2026 and ending August 31st, 2028.
Thank you, Counselor Woods. Mr. Blair? Can you hear us, Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Blair is joining us virtually in his office upstairs. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood,
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you to the nominations committee and Mr. Blair for interviewing those candidates and bringing us that report. Moving on to item A, the consent agenda per procedure memorandum number 14. It's the policy of City Council to have routine, non-controversial items placed on a consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion. If separate discussion of an item is requested by any member of council, it shall be removed and considered separately at the end of the regular meeting agenda. Do any members of council wish to remove an item to be placed at the end of the regular meeting agenda for separate consideration? Nope. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
I really do enjoy this one too. The A2 on there is to amend the operating hours for pool room and bowling alleys, which was an issue because it was put in as 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. were the only allowable time. So we've been having illegal bowling for 60 plus years
Yeah.
now. So I'm pleased to say that this
Has been
approval-
rectified.
Yes. So with that in mind, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented
So it is now 12
in
p.m.
illegal bowling.
I'll
The
second.
penalty.
Thank you.
That's death.
Okay, so that was Vice Mayor Arrowood making a motion. Counselor Overholzer, second. Mr. Blair, please call the roll.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Taking us to item B, this is a consideration of the City of Stanton Flood Resilience Plan. Ms. Beauregard.
Yes, at your work session 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
You received an introduction on the plan that was presented by Ms. Willow Hughes. And we're here this evening. We'll do another brief summary of the plan and then you will consider it for approval.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Ms. Hughes. Welcome.
As you all may remember, I was here at the last meeting to give you all an update on the City of Stanton Flood Resilience Plan. And I'm here tonight to ask you all to formally adopt that plan. But before I do that, I'll just go ahead and give you all and everyone here another quick overview and give you all an opportunity to ask any final questions you might have. So as a reminder, the goal of our resilience plan is to help Stanton better prepare for, respond to, and recover from flood events. And our plan lays out methods for us to do that and to build up our flood resilience. And then it also enables us to apply for funds to do all of that. And I will just highlight that this is a planning level document. It is a strong guide for us, but we can change it as needed. We really wanted this plan to be informed by the Staunton community, so we tried to incorporate public involvement as much as we could. We issued a public survey. We had 2 public meetings, and the plan has already been posted for public comment. The plan has also already been approved by the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation. And that is important because they oversee the Virginia Community Flood Preparedness Fund, or CFPF grant. And that grant typically has quite a bit of money in it every year. Last year, construction projects were eligible for up to $7.5 million per project. And we were not able to apply for that money until now, until we had this plan, because it's a requirement that we have an approved one first. And this would be a grant that requires a match from the city, but it is typically not a 50% match. Typically, it's more funded than we have to match. And the map on the screen shows that Staunton is actually considered a low income community. So we would be eligible for up to 95% funding and only need to do a 5% match. So a very quick highlight of the plan and what it actually includes. The first few sections kind of set up the plan, talk about its purpose, and talk about flooding in Staunton, talk about the history of flooding and the specific issues we face as an older city. It's a very hilly city. And it kind of gives us a summary of all of our vulnerabilities. And then it connects it back to our actual citizens, talks about some of the vulnerabilities our specific citizens face and how that kind of plays into whether or not they can be resilient to flooding. And then it talks about the community engagement and what we actually heard from our citizens. And then section 5 talks about the principles of flood resilience. This is something the DCR specifically wanted to see in here, and this is something they will want to see us prioritize in our projects. When we apply for grant funding, if we incorporate these 5 aspects, we will rank higher in that application process. And I have those on the screen, but a quick summary, we would want to use the best available science, prioritize social equity, choose projects that have a community scale of benefits, choose projects that are cost effective and a good use of the land they would be on, and choose projects that have a nature-based approach. And then section 6 highlights all of our efforts to date. That would be projects we've already completed that have a flood resilience aspect, or things we just do on an annual basis that help build us to the baseline we're at right now and show us what we're working with. This also has a section on funding, what funding we have already as a city, and a very long list of grants that we could apply to from various projects outside of the CFPF. And then it has a gap analysis, which just kind of highlights the things that we could approve on and gives us specific suggestions on how to do that. And then section 7 is the recommended projects. I have them up there and I'm happy to talk through any of them. But I will just go ahead and wrap up my project by hitting 2 of the big highlights I hope you guys take away. You all must adopt this plan before we can apply for the CFPF grant for any construction projects. And that grant opens annually, typically in the late fall. And then again, this is a living document. Updates can and should be made when needed. We would not need reapproval from the DCR, and we would not need you all to readopt it if we do updates. But this plan does only last for 5 years. So ours is now valid until August of 2030. And at that point, we would just need to update it. That would be probably new projects and things like that. And then we would have the DCR reapprove. So that is all I have for you today, but I am happy to answer any questions you all might have.
So many different kinds of projects that potentially would touch on this being handled by departments all across the city. Do you feel like you have a good process to raise awareness for your department concerning those projects so that you would have appropriate input and would also be able to put it in the pipeline for grant opportunities and?
That was one thing that I think was actually identified as a gap in our analysis, is that we don't always have a good process for communicating between departments, particularly knowing what each department does that helps us build flood resilience. And I think writing the plan was actually a really interesting way to kind of connect us all on that, because we did have a steering committee of staff members from multiple departments. And I think that's kind of helped set the mindset to kind of include more people. And I think a big overlap for us environmental programs would be public works. And we are meeting with them quarterly now to kind of make sure we're all on the same page there.
Ms. Hughes, I think, oh, I'm
Don't
sorry.
you go.
Ms. Hughes, I think one of the most important things that you all have done with Mr. Knight in communications is letting folks know what's happening as far as flood resiliency mitigation. And I saw, and I try not to spend any time on social media, but I did see a post. It was the park, and everyone remembers when Gypsy Hill flooded, and the train, the Gypsy Express was gone, and everything was gone. And then with the repairs that were made, it still floods because it floods here, right? And so what I saw were comments that I think were misunderstandings, that because it was flooding, it didn't work. So could you explain how Gypsy Hill still floods because it floods? And it's supposed to, but it doesn't, it keeps it from going all the way downtown.
Yes, we did see a lot of confusion after that July storm, that the stream restoration in the park had failed because there was flooding there. I do think, unfortunately, that was maybe lost in translation with the project. It is supposed to flood. We actually reconnected the stream to its floodplain to encourage flooding right there, on the ball fields where we're not seeing businesses and things like that. And it gives the water a space to slow down and sit for a minute.
Right.
So it's not all rushing downtown. So that project is functioning as designed, and we did not see anything incredibly concerning in July.
And like I said, I think communicating that is really important in education. Vice Mayor Arroway.
Well, along those lines too, it's a huge part of the focus of this is making the water get to places before it goes downtown, before it rushes downtown. Stream restoration soaks up more permeable pavement in parking lots and things like that, because it's just a long process, as it was explained to us with that. We can't. And if the water's already getting to the low points in the city, it's too late. So we're trying to find out but how long do you think this is? I mean, barring huge amounts of money from the sky, is this a generational project? Is this a long time going? I mean, there's always going to be an amount of rain that comes down at once that is going to cause flooding no matter what, but.
Yes, and a few years ago, after the 2020 flood, we had a study done to kind of give you all some engineering solutions to help the flooding downtown. And basically it was that none of them are feasible because they are so expensive and they require taking down historic buildings. So a different approach is to catch it upstream, which is really, it can be a more effective approach. But as far as timeline, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of our downtown sits in the floodplain, and not just that, but in the regulatory floodway and the channel essentially of what we would expect to see flooding. So there's not really a full fix. And that is kind of where we have to acknowledge that we are, and we just have to do what we can to lessen it, make it better. There's no preventing the storms that happened in 2020 that would have always flooded. There's just no way to deal with that water as fast as it's falling. But we can work to make sure we could deal with maybe the 10-year storm and the 25 and build up from there. And these projects now are all somewhat in the next few years, but part of the purpose of the plan is that we continue to add to it so that we continue to build our resiliency long term.
As well as tools like the water level warning
Yes, absolutely.
setup that if you could touch on that briefly.
Yeah, so we have multiple sensors throughout the city that either monitor the depth of the streams or are collecting rain, and will alert if streams reach a depth that we think might be concerning. They are set to be early, so when they go off, it is not that flooding is happening, it is that you have a few more minutes to move your car and do what you can to get yourself out of the floodplain. And then we also have our rain buckets set to go off if we receive more than 2 inches of rain in an hour, which we believe would probably cause flooding. And we do have 3 more sensors that we could deploy. So that's part of what's mentioned in the plan, is figuring out where would be a good spot for those. And we're constantly tweaking and learning from those. When we saw flooding in the park in July, we noticed that the sensor in Gypsy Hill Park did not go off. And that's because it's meant to be an early warning for downtown. And so we set it to a much higher level. And I mean, it was right. It didn't go off. Downtown was not flooding. But we realized that our citizens might interpret that as the park is not flooding. And so we tweaked those a little bit and lowered them. So now they will go off if that kind of storm happens again, because there is flooding in the park.
And I know there was some concerns with the flooding in the park, any damages. So can you explain the minimal damages to the maximal damage it could do? And
This past storm, we did not see anything extreme. We did see a little bit of erosion around some of the sidewalks we installed with the stream restoration project, but those are things that are easily fixable. If we got a really big storm, it's possible that we would see more damage, but that is part of what we need to keep in mind with our park being in the floodplain. Thankfully, it's not typically super difficult to get the leaves off of a ball field and maybe replant and things like that. So we did not see very much damage with the storm that happened in July, and hopefully that would hold true with other storms of a similar size.
Just looking at potential projects, I have heard from citizens who say that the storm drains outside of their house or down the street are always clogged, for example. What is the best way for a citizen to respond when they see that maybe leaves after a storm have clogged up the storm drain, or there's something blocking it, not allowing water to go down?
Yeah, the best thing to do would be to call Public Works so that they can send out a crew, particularly if the clog is something that might need equipment to get it unclogged.
Right.
Of course, if it's something someone can safely just move leaves
Right.
themselves, we would certainly
Of
encourage
course.
that as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a quick fix.
I was going to say, the last storm that we had, I walked the park fairly frequently, daily almost, and it was encouraging to see. I was actually happy that the park flooded and that people were still sitting in their basement apartments downtown and sitting at the bistro,
Yeah, exactly.
enjoying food. So the mitigation, flooding did not stop, but the mitigation is working. And the damage done in Gypsy Hill Park was easily cleaned up by our Parks and Rec crew very quickly. It was branches and leaves, and it wasn't substantial, so that was very encouraging. So it was a fantastic job, and the whole project was, I think, handled extremely well and was a great solution. And it's beautiful to look at, and the ducks love it too.
Yes,
So it's a win-win. I was also looking at the mention of all the grants. I saw that they were all listed under the department, the Virginia Department of Conservation. Are all the grants under the Commonwealth?
Most of them are. Most of them are state level grants, not always through the DCR, but we have found a lot that are state level. Those tend to be a little bit more reliable than federal level. right
Okay.
now.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Hughes? Thank you for doing this. We all rely on it. We all want it to work.
Yeah.
And thank you for all the work you're putting into it. And I think we can all help out in this plan. And if we have no more questions for Ms. Hughes, we can vote.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
I'll make a motion, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Counselor Oberholzer.
I move that City Council approve the resolution adopting the City of Staunton Flood Resilience Plan as presented.
A second.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Blair, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. Overholzer,
Aye.
Ms. Park.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Arrowood.
Aye.
Mayor Edwards.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. And thank you again, Ms. Hughes, and your whole department, everyone who worked on that. We are moving to our last item, C, update and discussion on the Highway Safety Improvement Program, the STARS study of Beverly Street and Johnson Streets and downtown. Ms. Beauregard.
All right, we have Susan Wilson, our transportation planner here this evening, along with Lyle Hart, our city engineer. And we were last talking about this in January of this year. And we're here to give an update on this project and hopefully get some guidance from you all as far as next steps. So we have some history tonight and kind of where things are currently. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Wilson.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Wilson. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. So for an update on HSIP intersections, we did want to start with how we got here. So in October of 2020, the city, along with VDOT and their consultant, kicked off the STARS study, which looked at 9 intersections within the city to make recommendations for improvement for driver and pedestrian safety. The study was first presented to City Council in June of 2021, just to give a status update of where we were, which was pretty early in the process at that point. In August of 2021, there was a public survey for the project. It was available for 2 weeks. It was posted online by VDOT, by the city, by the Planning District Commission, and we had a great amount of responses to that, and I'll get to that in a second. But fast forwarding to September of 2022, we did have a final study update to City Council at that time. The study was complete, and we were just talking about what the findings were of the study, what the recommendations were, and what the city's next steps were. So immediately following that, we applied for our first round of HSIP funding for intersection improvements. So that was the next month in October of 2022. And then the following year in 2023, we applied for funding again for intersection and corridor improvements. We did receive funding on those 2 applications, and like a lot of funding through VDOT, you have to wait for a little bit before you actually do receive the funding. So in January 2025, we had our kickoff meeting with VDOT to talk about the intersections that we were going to move forward with and next steps for us to get moving on that. And so we started this project in earnest last summer, and then presented an update to you all at the first January meeting to City Council this year. So that gets us to where we are today. But in 2022, like I said, VDOT did complete the STAR study that analyzed 10 intersections for their potential to increase safety for both pedestrians and motorists. The study included recommendations that could be implemented in the short, immediate, and long term. And most of these intersections were within downtown, but 3 of them were along the West Beverly corridor. So as part of that study, once field data was collected and the information was analyzed, the team identified safety issues for each intersection and then improvement ideas to increase safety for drivers and pedestrians. So the team put together a study that, like I said, was available for 2 weeks online, and all of this information was included in the public survey. I would say that if you all had a chance to click on the link that I think was provided to you, because this survey, you could still go and look at it and thumb through the pages. It was pretty comprehensive and robust, and you really had to look at it. But there was tons of information. There was tons of opportunity to allow you to provide input. But the survey highlighted all the identified issues for each intersections and asked residents, do you agree with these findings? And they could say yes or no, and then provide an open-ended answer on their thinking. And then they also showed some improvements that were identified and asked residents how well they agreed with that as an intersection improvement. And also, again, they had an opportunity to provide an open-ended comment. So, like I said, this was posted for 2 weeks in August of 2021, so really height of COVID. And we got nearly 500 responses to this survey for a 2-week time period, which I think is pretty good. So, I think one of the questions that you all wanted an answer to, and I found this one really interesting, is who responded to the survey, and the majority of them were City of Staunton residents. Like I said, we had nearly 500 responses, but to the question of where do you live, we had 325 responses. And 81% of those were Staunton residents. That 14% that's shown on the far left, people said that they lived adjacent to a study area intersection, but 67% lived within Staunton elsewhere. And what modes do you travel? The highest mode of travel selected was vehicle, but the second highest was walking, and respondents were able to select multiple answers to that question. And this slide and the next one are just taken directly from a presentation that was put together on when the STARS study was being presented on, just snippets of comments that were provided in that survey. And so this is a summary of comments that were in support of some of the ideas that were presented in the survey. On pavement repurposing, looks like it's the fourth one down. Someone said they agree that Beverly Street did not need 2 vehicle travel lanes. But then you go to the next slide, and these are a summary of comments from people that had concerns with some of the recommendations that were included in the survey. The bottom one, downtown is a destination, not an obstacle course, and that is also very historic, and that some of the ideas presented are visually jarring. So fast forwarding a little bit, the recommendation, the STAR study included a list of recommended improvements, and this visual right here is one of the graphics from the STAR study. This is Beverly Augusta intersection. And this just shows that bulb outs or curb extensions were one of the recommendations in the STAR study because it was a way to accommodate pedestrians within the downtown Beverly corridor. So I know I presented previously to you all about the benefits of curb extensions, but they extended to the roadway and reduce the pedestrian distance, or excuse me, the crossing distance for pedestrians. It increases their visibility to drivers. It serves as a traffic calming. The crosswalk itself ends up being more visible to drivers as it's framed within a narrower space. And vehicle turning speeds are often reduced because of the smaller turning radius. This was also included in the STAR study, and this is just a preferred alternative visual showing Beverly corridor again. And I want to just highlight a couple of things that were shown here. Please don't pay attention to the cost because it is very outdated. I don't think anything can get done today with $250,000 in the transportation world. But this visual right here does show the single travel lane concept being recommended for Beverly Street and highlights benefits of the recommended improvements, including pedestrian signals, curb extensions, and high visibility crosswalks. At the bottom of this, there are 4 images that show a cross section of Beverly Street. The one on the left shows existing conditions, and then the three others are just kind of concepts. One with a single travel lane, keeping on-street parking on the left, and then providing either delivery or on-street parking on the right. The third image shows extending the sidewalks on both sides of the street. So there's just one lane for travel. And then the last one shows extension of sidewalk just on one side of the street. So like I said, after that final presentation to City Council in September of 22, the city immediately applied for the first round of HSIP funding that we got in October of 2022. And what we applied with were the intersections that were included in the STARS study. And what we said is we wanted to install high visibility crosswalks with highly reflective materials, pedestrian signal heads, pedestrian countdown signals, also flashing yellow arrows, and do improvements to unsignalized intersections. We asked for $1.1 million that year for those improvements. And then the following October, we applied again, this time asking for $1.07 million. And at that time, the map we included with our application was the bottom image, which shows the Frederick, Beverly, and Johnson corridors. So when we held our pre-scoping meeting with VDOT back in January of 25, it became apparent because of the funding that we wouldn't be able to make all the improvements that we identified here, even though we had nearly $2.2 million. And so what we did is we whittled down the list to 9 intersections along Beverly and Johnson Street that I'll show on the next slide. And the main reason for this is HSIP funding program really focuses on systemic improvements, which is basically the same improvement type applied in multiple places. And so that's where the corridor concepts identified here really come in, is we're basically providing the same improvements along Johnson's, the intersections along Johnson, and then the same type for the intersections along Beverly Street. And like I said, these are the intersections that we settled on. There's the 3 on Johnson, 6 along Beverly. Some of these, like I said, weren't included in the STAR study, but because it is the same improvement type, because the same issues are at those other intersections like Central and Market and Culture, we did want to go ahead and include those in our corridor recommendations. So we'll go over a few slides of why we're doing this. The STAR study consistently identified lacking or outdated pedestrian facilities along Beverly and Johnson Street, including ADA ramps that don't meet standards, and they also identified the lack of crosswalk markings. Our HSIP applications called out our intent to install high visibility crosswalks as well as pedestrian crossing signals. Our applications did not state the ADA ramp upgrades would be included, but given the project ideas that came out of the STARS study, they really should have been mentioned. In addition to that, though, the HSIP funding comes from federal transportation funds, so making improvements to a location using federal funds means that you have to attempt to make improvements to get to current standards for ADA. In addition to the STAR study recommending that the ramps be installed on curb extensions, we've reviewed these intersections ourselves with our design consultants and had discussions with VDOT and basically confirmed that there are probably only a handful, if any, intersections where we've got the right of way to be able to install ADA ramps without doing it on the curb extensions. So the issue really for us in a lot of these locations is when we say ADA ramps, I think a lot of us just think of you've got to have the little domes, the truncated domes, and that makes an ADA ramp. But it really goes beyond that as far as what makes something ADA compliant. So in addition to the truncated domes, the ramps have got to meet the slope and the cross slope requirements. There has to be a color and texture contrast, and you've got to provide landing and clear area requirements. And so all of these requirements are pretty near impossible in the limited right of way that we have between the curb and the property lines, or the building face. And so, like I said, this shows one of the challenges that we've got along Beverly Street. That's the southeast corner, of course, with Augusta Street. This is another visual showing the existing pedestrian conditions, and there's just very limited visual contrast between the street and the crosswalk, and it makes it hard for drivers to see or predict where they may see pedestrians. And this is the condition of one of the curb ramps along Beverly Street. And that was a picture that I took yesterday. There's a lot of cracking. Of course, they have some scars now because of the ice storm that we had earlier this year. And then this one shows that we've got grass growing out of those ramps. So these are some of the improvements that are being proposed as part of this project. The pedestrian push button. So the intent is for the signal cycles to always bring up the pedestrian walk or don't walk signal on every cycle. But in addition to that, pedestrians will be able to push the button to be able to call up the pedestrian cycle. And these will be audible. So for visually impaired residents of the city or tourists to the city, they will be able to hear the walk, don't walk tones. We'll also have the upgraded countdown pedestrian heads, high visibility crosswalks. Again, that was included in the HSIP application, and then the upgraded ADA ramps. So we recently got our consultant to submit us the 30% plans on where we are on this. And this is really a first stab at bringing forth a design based on what we want the streets to look like. So this is
Can you say what the 30% design, what does that mean?
Basically when a transportation project is being built in VDOT world, a lot of times you end up with a 30%, 60%, and then 100% design. And I kind of think of them as starting with like a really fat marker. This is the fat marker attempt. And as you figure things out and see what works or doesn't, then you can go with like something finer. And so you're by the end, you're really narrowing it down. That's the plan that you can then give to the contractor to build it. So I guess 30% is like 30% along in the design. Is a way to think of it.
In the development of those plans, the design specifications or the overall design can change a little bit based on the findings in the.
But yes, and based on feedback. So we're given this by our consultant, and we review it. We ask VDOT to review it as well, and they make comments, and we give those comments back to our consultant, and they will either outright make the changes based on what we've said or try to make the changes. We have a discussion as to why it may not be implementable, and we go from there.
Is it based on feedback from VDOT and consultants?
In addition to, yes, in addition to you all, the public, because after the 30% is when we will go and present this to the public.
And then, as I understand it, then VDOT has a public hearing.
That is the VDOT public hearing.
Right, right.
So this project, I would say, this one is different. The other example I can think of is Commerce Road, VDOT in, I guess, Richmond and Greenville project. Those, VDOT is administering those. So they are really handling all that. We as staff are administering this project. And so that public hearing requirement, it will be me and Lyle and our consultants, moving forward on that public involvement effort and reviewing these plans first before we give them to VDOT instead of the other way around on the ones that they are administering. So again, this is Augusta and Beverly Street proposed design. This shows a single lane of traffic moving along Beverly Street. It's got the bump outs on the Beverly Street side, not on the side street side. But this shows the bidirectional ramps, which are really the preferred ramp type as opposed to the corner ramps, which is what we have on Beverly Street right now. So this puts someone directly into the crosswalk. So if you were visually impaired, you could go down the ramp and know that you are in the crosswalk heading to a ramp on the other side of the street. Whereas right now, if you're visually impaired, you go down a corner ramp, you're really being dumped into the middle of the intersection. And again, like I said, this is a first stab. And so this is an example here where we are going to go back to the consultant and say, this crosswalk is skewed. We really think that the ramp that's shown on the right side can be moved down a little bit, which would allow the crosswalk to be more linear instead of skewed. So that's some of the feedback that we'll be providing. And this is Beverly and Market Street. So again, this is showing the directional ramps, the bump outs along Beverly, single travel lane along Beverly. And I know a lot of our focus is along Beverly, but this is an example of one of the intersections on Johnson Street. This is Johnson at New. The top right is the New Street parking garage. And Johnson Street does not have the bulb outs. Johnson Street carries about, I actually just looked at updated traffic counts, 11,000 cars per day, whereas Beverly Street has, I think it's 1,700 within the project area. So quite a bit difference. So bump outs are not recommended along Johnson Street just because of the higher traffic volumes. But one of the feedback pieces that we want to give to consultant on this is, can they put the directional ramps in there? Because they are the preferred style, but there might be some right-of-way challenges with the building corners there. And this was something that we presented to you in January, just a rendering with us attempting AI. I think we've gotten a little bit better since then. If you remember what we showed you in January, the bump outs were very, very bright white. Here we're able to show them as a brick or brick-like material. And so this is just showing what it would look like if we narrowed it down. We do the pedestrian improvements, the ramps on the curb extensions, show the higher visibility crosswalks. But like I said, this drawing is still not 100% accurate, so please don't hang your hat on this one. But I will note here that we have had serious discussions with VDOT about what is an allowable cost for us. So if we make any improvements that are brick or stamped concrete to look like brick, that is considered a betterment and not a project necessity. And so because of that, those costs will be borne by the city instead of VDOT. VDOT will not participate in the cost of those improvements that they don't deem necessary. So going back, if we did the bump outs entirely in concrete, VDOT would participate in the cost on that. Going with 100% brick, they will not. But of course, in addition to the materials and installation costs, there's definitely a consideration of cost and staff time of maintenance, depending on the materials that are selected for those bump outs. I just flagged that for you, just as something, because right now, $2.2 million for this project is entirely funded by VDOT, but going outside of anything that they don't consider a necessity that they would deem a betterment, that would be a cost for the city.
Do they fund any percentage of it? I mean, like in this example,
Right.
it's cutting out the street, it's putting the concrete curb in, it's shaping the whole thing, and then at the end it's laying the bricks in. Or do they say that has bricks, we're not giving you $1?
Or no?
It would be the delta between.
The change difference between the two. Okay, so it's not like, hey, this does not look like our drawings, we're not funding it at all. Okay.
And I know they're specific on the color. It has to be white or yellow.
I,
The high visibility
Yeah.
paint, you mean? Do you know?
for the markings or the ramp,
The-
the domes?
Yeah, for the markings on the crosswalk.
The markings on the crosswalk, to be considered a high visibility crosswalk, it has to be the retroreflective material. That high visibility is almost like saying jello when you really should say gelatin, I think. I think it means a specific thing. And so high visibility, it does mean the retroreflective material. It means a crosswalk style that has been deemed to be most visible to drivers. And so that's the ladder style, as opposed to like the lines or brick crosswalks. They don't consider that high visibility.
Right, but isn't that the only color option? Either have yellow or white.
I don't know that I've ever seen a yellow
It's just white.
crosswalk.
I've seen examples in other states where they've taken that required white ladder with that the reflective material and overlaid it on like a stamped decorative surface. So I think there are possibilities where there
Virginia will allow
there
that.
could be, yeah, could be merged together.
I know they're
Look at it.
strict.
To look at a specific example, the AI representation that you're showing here is mostly brick, but it does have a sort of white insert and then the bright white crosswalk. Does this meet the ADA and the federal requirements?
Oh, no. This is us telling AI to try to create something that isn't as stark as last time, but shows the concept of bump out. That's mainly the reason for it, because it's hard to visualize what a bump out would look like. But yeah, as far as like meeting ADA and are the slopes, and I really think that you need to put a concrete transition between a brick or a stamped brick and the truncated domes, because you need a texture difference for visually impaired.
One of the bottom line questions I want to get to now or later is it possible to implement the bump outs with more historically harmonious materials, that addressing some of the concerns Historic Stanton Foundation has raised?
Yeah, and that's what we were trying to show here and talk about and try to find out from VDOT is it is possible there are certain things that we would still need to do, like here, if there was a preference to have the domes be a brick color or a green, that doesn't have the contrast that is needed. So, that's an example. But again, if we did this with a brick or a stamped brick, that cost would be on us. But we would still need to meet the attempt to meet the requirement as far as slope, cross slope, things like that, in addition to the domes.
So with additional costs, yes, it's possible that this could meet the ADA requirements, this approach with more.
Yeah.
Ms. Wilson and Ms. Beauregard, how specific do you want us to get with direction? I mean, are you expecting us to give you, would you like to leave tonight? Or Ms. Wilson, would you
So
like
I
us
think
to?
she has a few more slides. to
Yeah,
talk
okay,
about
but I
the
mean,
next
asking all these
steps.
questions, is it
Yeah.
really, is this the kind of information
Yeah,
you're
this
going
is
to want us?
helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is helpful.
And I can give you some ideas after this. On a typical project, when we reach these 30% plans point, we hold a public hearing. which is a requirement on projects that have federal funding. So we do plan on hosting an open forum public hearing, which is less formal. It wouldn't be this format. It would be like what's shown on the visual. And Jeff, I think that Mr. Overholtz, I think that might be you during the public hearing that was held in February for the Commerce Road Greenway. But basically, it's a drop-in style format with visuals. We'd have staff and consultants on hand. That format just works a lot better to truly get feedback from the public, and that's what we would want to do. We'd have renderings of what some of the cross street sections would look like, and information on the different improvements like I showed here, like the push buttons, the countdown signals, etc. There's a requirement to advertise that public hearing for a minimum of 30 days before it's actually held. And right now we haven't selected a date for that. And we're open to sharing more information about this project because it is Beverly, because it is so visible, and because it is a change. And so, you know, if there's any groups that you all have suggestions that we could provide information to so that they can share it with their network. And then also, of course, we're open to any direction from you about additional meetings that you would want us to hold in advance of that public hearing.
So, Ms. Wilson, for the public hearing, what would you be presenting? The 30% plan? I mean, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it internally because I think a lot of times, and I think I wouldn't necessarily say VDOT of today, but I think VDOT's historical approach is public engagement wasn't always something that was at the forefront from them. I would say today they're very, very different about it. And so us presenting to you, hey, we've got 30% plans isn't typical in the process, but given where we are and, you know, a lot of the, I guess, thoughts that people have on this, you know, we really wanted to give you all an update and, you know, chance for any feedback before we move forward anymore. But, I lost my chain of thought.
What you would be
Ms.
presenting what specifically would you present at a?
Yes, thank you for that.
Workshop.
The boring plans that we elected not to show in front of you tonight, the sheet by sheet by sheet, those would all be around, but also something like the rendering that we showed, but something a bit more accurate. You know, if we knew specifically like the type of signal, what the pedestrian countdown might look like, or would there be color options, you know, something like that. But again, 30% is really, really early. I don't know if we would have all that. Also, a timeline of where we think we might be. You know, I show on here next summer, late summer next year would be the earliest, but we, you know, we would provide that and talk a little bit as best we could as, you know, sequence of construction, like how we think that it might impact, you know, vehicle travel downtown. And we would have the opportunity for the public to provide written comment or oral comments, all of that.
So after the public hearing, would y'all bring that back to council? Any of the, you know, comments that was made during the public hearing? I mean, is that coming back to council? Because I see after that is to continue design and development.
I think it's up to you, but I think typically, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think typically it would be presented merely as an update.
I would certainly like to
Yeah.
see it back at council after that. I mean, so you're saying that what we're seeing today, once you advertise to do the public hearing, and then 30 days after that, the public hearing happens, they'll pretty much be seeing what we're seeing today, or an expanded version of it, not further along?
Yes.
And
Okay. Please.
Yeah, because I mean, along those lines, it's been, we all agree that we want to see improved accessibility, better walking, conditions downtown. It would, as I've put it, it would be great to step into the 1990s of the walk, don't walk signals, things like that. But it's hard to separate this from the results of the survey of the demonstration project, which I understand that was about, well, if it's going to one lane, what do you want to see it like? But it ended up feeling like it was a little bit of a referendum on, do you want to go to one lane? And that's something I would hope to see from a public forum meeting on that. And because it would be great to know, can we move forward? 2.2 million just doesn't, when we're being told, other projects are just, like putting a sidewalk in on Edgewood costs 4.5 million or something like that. I have to believe it, but I mean, it's hard to imagine all of this could be done within that amount. And is it possible to move forward with with the items on West Beverly and Johnson Street, which it's hard to imagine those being contentious, and kind of hit pause on Beverly and gather more public opinion on it and find out what we need, and also just find out what, how much would it cost for us to do the stuff that, like, better signalized intersections and bidirectional crosswalks, but without cutting it down to one lane. Is that a possibility? I know you said we cannot meet accessibility requirements by not extending the curbs on that, but can we improve what we're able to without doing all of it? Is it all or none?
Yes, I can take a stab at.
I guess that's multiple. I should have made a list.
I think as far as the process, the reason we're here tonight is because, as Ms. Wilson said, this is Beverly Street, and this is this is important. It's high profile, and also pedestrian safety is important. So we thought it would be beneficial to this group and in this setting to have just kind of a pre-update or a pre-preview, I guess, of what 30% plans. Give you a heads up. Hey, this is coming, and this is some of the background history of it, to be able to just kind of engage with that as the update and where we are since it's been, again, it's presented about in January, and also give some of the rationale and parameters. So when it does come time for the public hearing, you'd already have some time to think about that, kind of where the approach is coming from and some of the constraints. As far as Mr. Harewood, you mentioned about can we do improvements without the bump outs or without one lane? It would be very difficult to do that. I'll back up a little bit, especially with the federal funding. If we're touching an intersection or touching part of the street, we need to make reasonable effort to upgrade to ADA compliance as best we can. There are some places where maybe there's a retaining wall or existing utilities or the traffic situation. If you notice on the couple of the examples shown, like we didn't show any bump outs protruding any into Augusta Street because we need that for Anna Johnson, because we need those traffic lanes. Along with the STARS study, but also just looking at traffic data, Beverly Street is someplace where maybe we can make those accommodations, and then that was shown several years ago with the STARS study. And so we want to make it as safe and pedestrian friendly as we can, as we feasibly can. And since we have that option at Beverly Street, and we're required to make an attempt to do that, and it was recommended in the STAR study, it all kind of fit together to do that on Beverly Street. And that's kind of how this came to be with that configuration.
Also, it was my understanding earlier in the presentation that in some situations on Beverly Street, you would have to do the bump out because you would encroach in private property. So you'd have to do the bump out.
Or really just the space with the building frontage,
Right.
Which is usually the same, which is pretty close to the same location as the property line.
So if I may, I'd like to just start with, as you said, the purpose of this. And I mean, just to go back to the purpose of it and the values of it is that this is to come into the 1970s, and this is to come into the Disabilities Act. And we need to make our intersections safe for people with disabilities. That's period. And it's a historic place. And so we're mindful of keeping it with historic features. But number one is making it safe for people with disabilities to cross our streets. And then the rest, we just figure it out. But we have to make that happen, in my opinion. I believe that we start there and worry about the rest, but it's a commitment.
Can I build on that a little bit? So just full disclosure, in my day job at BDOT, I haven't had any interaction or involvement with this since the HSIP funding or the current project. But I was the project manager for the STAR study, and I helped give the 2022 presentation to City Council at the end of the STAR study. So I'm very familiar with the needs here. And those 10 intersections were selected because they experienced higher crashes than anticipated based on the roadway characteristics.
Right.
So there's a need here for safety for not only pedestrians, but also vehicles. The 2 lanes, if it's not needed, it creates more conflict points where crashes can happen. It encourages higher speeds. So I think there's some real potential here to really enhance our downtown. And based on the feedback we got from the demonstration grant, there's 3 things: emergency access, accommodate deliveries, and fit with the historic character of downtown. And I feel like we can come up with a solution that adequately addresses all 3 of those and still deliver the goals here from a safety standpoint.
Right.
We have been in touch with and reached out to the fire department, talking about emergency access, and also as part of their basis of design, our consultant did some auto turn analysis. And while some might not be ideal, most of the intersections already aren't ideal. And so we kind of compared them to what's existing conditions. How does that compare to where the bump outs might be? And so there might still be some, some tweaking there, but generally, if not across the board, I think the auto turn showed that the type of controlling vehicle size that you would expect to need to use these intersections for like a commercial vehicle, but also that our fire apparatus can get there as well. It showed that it would meet that.
Before I forget, there's one other thing I wanted to bring up. As this project develops, is there a possibility that we could look at potentially lowering the speed limit on Beverly Street? Just recently, Virginia changed the regulations to allow localities to drop 25-mile-an-hour speed limits to lower. I think you go all the way down to 10. I don't think we need that, but I think that's one thing. I think just controlling speeds, because there's just a lot going on Beverly Street, a lot to look at, a lot for distractions. So I think that could really help address the safety concerns downtown as well, if we were to consider that.
5 is fast on Bev.
If you're planning on going down to 1 lane, that would be something.
That's
gonna slow it
That will
down
help,
there.
yeah, that will help
a lot.
anyways, but if you could reinforce it with a lower speed limit, that might be something to look at.
If we're able to address all the concerns brought up, I mean, the emergency vehicles, the drivability of it, concerns of business owners and all of that. I mean, it's going to take a great deal of public outreach and convincing on that. And hopefully this is part of it. But
That's why we were elected,
yeah,
we make these hard decisions.
Well,
So I know,
yeah.
we listen
No,
to
no.
people. I'm not saying we don't
Well,
listen
I
to
was
people.
going to say, so we have the one kind of legal public hearing, but we're hoping that you will give us some input,
Right.
like, what do you want to see? How,
Yeah.
I mean, we can do more. We should do more probably for educational purposes. And so just kind of want to talk through
Yeah.
that a little bit with you all.
I think the
Um,
ones that you've had so far, when folks have come for like the one in the high school or a couple in the high school
Yeah.
and the one you had here, they're generally well attended. The one at West End, the Uniontown,
They weren't.
community gatherings.
Well, we also, I guess that was last fall, we put on a workshop for the land use consideration from a conservation standpoint. And it was
Mhm.
it was at Historic Stanton. It was hosted there. So, I mean, that could be another example. I mean, it'd be great if maybe we could work with Historic Stanton to host a work session on this where everyone comes together and kind of talks about all the challenges and the best path forward.
Yeah, I would say, echoing on what the mayor and vice mayor both said, after having a loved one in a wheelchair for 2.5 months, navigating downtown Stanton is not fun at all, and very challenging. So, and not all ramps are equal. Just a ramp is not a ramp, and the proper ramps. And I understand why VDOT has its requirements, because they are important, and they're regulations for a reason. So I get it more now than I ever did. And after talking to a doctor who was required in medical school to be in a wheelchair for a week during med school, he understands it too. So I think it is important that we do accommodate and also respect the environment at the same time. And I think we can do both. I think we can walk and chew gum.
And we're literally right down the street
Bad
from,
pun, but
and we're literally right down the street from VSDB.
I also think that we can show that the businesses also, you know, as deliveries, because they don't have no other way of getting what they need, that we can do that, help them out too, as far as going down to one lane, but using that other lane for their deliveries. And then, you know, we made a suggestion, if it's long enough, to add another parking space on that side. You know, all these things can come into play. I mean, we just have to look at them and get the public's opinion. So yeah, we need to have that discussion.
I think we agree on the fundamentals that the mayor said. We need to make downtown safer for pedestrians and motorists. And it looks as if broadly this project would accomplish that. What I'm less sure about, because it looks like it really hasn't been spelled out in detail, is this one lane concept and to what extent that hinders deliveries. In theory, I think it could be worked out so that businesses would be satisfied. But we did take a bit of a hit to our credibility with the demonstration project, and businesses, many of them complained they took a significant hit to their business with that. I understand these projects are not the same. That they're interdependent, but they're not the same. And that I think it, so I looked over kind of the 52-page summary of the STAR study, and there's just a very scant language about the one lane concept. And the execution is going to be everything, I think, there. How do we reimagine this, the right lane? That now we have 2 lanes of traffic. Now it would just be that center lane for traffic. What do we do with that other lane? And one of the schematics you showed like 3 potential ways you could extend the sidewalk all the way over that lane so that it disappears completely. Well, that probably wouldn't be great for deliveries. Or you could retain that lane for deliveries. What does that look like exactly? What would the markings be? How would people access the lane? So those details are really important. And I feel like that hasn't really been developed. And maybe that's part of the conversation with Historic Stanton and SDDA and others to work that out. But it does need to be worked out. That's a super important criteria, I think.
If I could speak to that a little bit, just for
Sure.
clarity. For part of the HSIP project, the scope is only what's at the intersections. And so what we do in between will be up to us and up to us to pay for. And
A later
generally,
phase.
generally what we do, but not necessarily,
Okay.
because it would be basically just pavement marking, which is not relatively not that expensive if we need to do something different for that. So there'd be some flexibility there. I will also mention that at the Beverly and Central and Beverly and New Street, part of the rationale for the bump outs or to bring it down to one lane is so that we have an always stop there, because the for moving traffic and it also helps with maintenance, but primarily for moving traffic and for safety. As the STAR study pointed out, it's recommended to have an always stop instead of the signalized intersection. So that all kind of works together.
And excuse me, Mr. Hart. So as I understand it, it's only one lane at the intersection. Is that correct? Like they go, they come in.
Physically, yes, that's what this project is doing, but we would need to have some sort of probably signage, but certainly pavement markings if we're going to, if we're going to
Move people into the,
You
into
saw
the
the
one.
lines.
Yeah,
One
and
lane
I
of
would,
travel.
I
You're
would
not
just,
imagining that cars would be wandering back and forth. Every time they get to the intersection, they have to go back to the middle to fit between the bump outs.
Already did
You have
anyway
to stay in the
sometimes.
one line.
Pass on
Yeah.
bike
How are we
lanes.
going to
Miss
do that?
Wilson, could you go back to the one slide that the project summary sheet? You're probably not gonna be able to see it because it's gonna be too small, but there.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be able to see this, but that's what this shows. This shows parking and loading spaces on both sides of Beverly as you go down to the one travel lane.
and I would just chime in, the feedback that I heard from you all in January is you wanted us to go ahead with city funds to address that, to be a parking or delivery zone whenever the intersections are improved. You didn't want the merging to happen, which we had initially proposed to you all. Just for a safety standpoint, you didn't think that that was the right thing to do. And so we heard you on that. And our intent is for it to be whether it's delivery, loading, unloading, or parking, or a combination of both. But striping and signing that is part of the time, timing it with this.
Ideally, we would correspond with the type of use of the buildings themselves. I mean, the restaurant's getting a lot more deliveries than the courthouse.
Well, the good thing about the loading zone, if you put them in front of the restaurants, they could have access to the deliveries during the day. And then at a certain time period, like most cities, those loading zones become regular parking spaces in the evening.
Utilize them during the evening. Yes. Yeah. That's what I know that the public hearings would be about, and people asking those questions because they will want to know, especially from the demonstration that was showcased. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do after Counselor Woods, just when the public hearings do happen, I think every effort needs to be made to make sure that we separate so people aren't conflating the demonstration project with this, because it's completely separate. And I know $2 million, I mean, I think whatever we can do to take advantage of this grant, I am all for, especially considering, we are home to VSDB and stuff. And I appreciate all the work you guys have done, and I look forward to just learning more and hopefully, again, just the public hearings, just keeping it so simple and like maybe clearly defining, like when we say bump out, we're saying it and throwing it around, but hopefully, there could be a poster like, what is a bump out? And
Yeah,
like,
what is a high
what is
visibility
the,
stop
what's the
sign?
crosswalk? What's the bump out? What's the dome? Like, to be labeled and
Let's-
simple so people can really follow along and stuff.
Let's get it all over the place. Let's put it in that case at the library and talk to Sarah. And
So something we haven't talked about, that loading lane, whatever it's called, is that also potentially a place we could include a bike lane? And could that potentially be part of this project? How would that work?
Yeah,
The study does say that it potentially could be used for that.
potentially, that would be tricky with the bump outs.
Yes.
Certainly something, certainly beyond the scope of the funding for the HSIP project. I believe in the STAR study, it actually
It
proposed
was Johnson Street.
John Street, and maybe even some on Frederick, I want to say, because especially there's more room on.
And that aligned with kind of the Greenway plan of the hub and spoke, trying to get it up to commerce from the wharf. I think it's just going to be, I don't know if there's not enough pavement
No.
downtown to consider that.
I would just chime in, piggybacking on Adam's suggestion of revisiting the current speed limit. If we did a lower speed limit, there's perhaps the opportunity to encourage sharrows along the street. Not ideal, but if you've got a low volume, low speed street, incorporating bicyclists with motorists is, a recommendation. So
Yeah, what were the numbers you compared to Johnson Street versus Beverly 1700 to,
11,000.
yeah.
Okay. Heidi,
So the lane isn't wide enough to accommodate a bike lane. That's okay. But also the bulb out is a potential deterrent to having a bike lane as well, because they'd have to be swerving back into the middle.
you would just travel along as if you were a car. Yeah.
Chances.
Any other input or questions for Ms. Wilson and Mr. Hart? All righty. Thank you for your patience
Yes.
because you have 7 people up
you.
here asking you and grilling you and you've put an awful lot of time into this. This started with like 2 councils ago. I mean,
Yeah.
before even the 4 of us were on council. And then there was a second us and now this is the 3rd council it's gone through. So this has been a long project. I think Mr. Hart, maybe you started with this, but it's been a long road. So for a lot of us, it's new. So thank you for your patience and explaining things, and I feel confident we're going to have a very good result from this. So thank you. And thank you, Ms. Beauregard.
Well, thank you. And Ms. Wilson and Ms. Hart, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Are we good as far as kind of what we need to see happen next? I think we are.
You know how to reach us, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Call Brad.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you want many points of engagement. We'll look at different places, different ways to do that, and we'll start working on that and come up with a timeline and start there. And we heard what you said about some of the other things you'd like to see happen as far as kind of the materials, looking at that, looking at what happens with that right lane. So kind of keeping some flexibility in the project as we get feedback about the project. Does that sound right?
Sound good? I think so. Thank you for summarizing that.
Well,
And thank you all
thank
again
you.
very much.
Thank you.
That was our last item. So we're up to matters from the city manager.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mr. Blair is on Zoom and he would just like to introduce himself to explain why he's not in the room. I'll turn it over to Mr. Blair.
There is Mr. Blair, but
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. And just for the public, I wanted to let you know I was at the work session, but started to feel a little ill. And in the interest of public health, I decided to go to my office here in City Hall and participate via Zoom. Again, just so that I wouldn't be in a risk to anyone in chambers.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Mr. Blair.
we appreciate your kindness and your diligence.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Blair, for
And-
sticking with us. We offered to let him go, but he wanted to stick with us. So thank you.
I
Mr.
just
feel
have one
better.
more announcement
Yes,
to
ma'am.
make.
Go right ahead.
So, believe it or not, Labor Day is coming up. The end of summer is close. City offices and facilities are closed on Monday, September 7th. Shop and Dine Out actually will remain open an extra day, and bollards will be removed 7:30 Tuesday morning. If you get your trash picked up on Monday, please don't put it out. Please put it out for Wednesday collection, so you can put it out Tuesday night. Downtown Central Business District will receive collection on Tuesday, September 8th, and additionally on Wednesday, September 9th, and then normal pickup will resume. Recycling Center will be closed on Monday, the 7th, to reopen on Tuesday, the 8th. And the library will be closed on Sunday, September 6th, and Monday, 7th, open again on the 8th. And also seasonal Sunday hours will resume on Sunday, September 13th at the library. They'll be open from 1 to 5. And of course, this building will be closed also on Monday, September 7th to reopen on the 8th. And I think that is all I have this evening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beauregard. That takes us to our final item. Looking for my script. Are you ready, Mr. Knight? Our final item on the agenda is matters from the public. This portion of the meeting is set aside for council to hear comments from citizens and others on a wide variety of topics. A copy of the Stanton City Council's Matters from the Public Guidelines is available in paper form at the desk by the side door and online on the City of Stanton's website. We ask that you please familiarize yourself with those guidelines before speaking. If you would like to address council, please come forward to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. When it's your turn, please state your name and address for the record and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. I will let you know if your time expires. As a reminder, this is a time for the City Council to listen and not to answer questions. If you are seeking a response or you would like a follow-up to a question or comment, please speak with the City Manager, Leslie Beauregard, or one of us following the meeting. Please step up to the podium, Ms. Brannick.
Thank you. My name is Deneen Brannick, for those of you who don't know me. Honorable Mayor and members of City Council, thank you for your service to our city. It's certainly a tremendous responsibility and an honorable endeavor to represent the citizens of Staunton, and I appreciate your service. I want to briefly express my thoughts and concerns about the proposed streetscape work to Beverly Street as outlined in the STARS report and plan. It's been interesting to sit here this evening and gratifying to hear that most of you are concerned about the impact this could have on the historic appearance and character of our downtown. And those are the basis mostly of my concerns. I've been involved in preservation efforts in Staunton for over 30 years, first at Historic Staunton Foundation and then at Fraser Associates, and as a member of the Historic Preservation Commission. Excuse me. I've seen many plans come and go, some good and bad, but what we have here as a result of careful planning for decades is unlike most communities. It is indeed a special place, and I think you would all agree. Beverly Street is the heart of our historic downtown, and hundreds of property owners, city officials, and private individuals have worked for decades to protect, preserve, and promote it is a wonderful place to work, live, invest, and visit. Countless awards, accolades, and articles, not to mention the thousands of visitors each year, are a testament to what a wonderful historic home and destination we have here in Staunton. Based on the recent survey about the proposed changes to Beverly Street, it seems clear to our citizens it seems clear that our citizens do not feel the need for these drastic changes to the appearance and functionality of vehicular and pedestrian traffic downtown. In fact, there are tremendous concerns about the detrimental effects that the proposed interstate improvements, essentially creating a one-lane street, could have on traffic flow and subsequently on the impact it could have on existing and future businesses by limiting deliveries and parking. And I know you're trying to address those things, but I do think that you need to recognize those are valid concerns. I agree with many of these concerns and feel there are alternatives that should be explored that preserve the character and the vitality of downtown. I also want to express my concern about the development of this plan without the intentional input and involvement of local citizens and key community groups. Staunton has several very engaged and invested organizations that are longtime stakeholders in downtown, which could contribute valuable input. As I mentioned, I serve on the Historic Preservation Commission and have for a long time. I'm honored to be a part of that commission and help our property owners understand the value of historic preservation and help maintain the significant character of our historic districts. But I'm not here speaking on behalf of the commission because we have never been given the opportunity to formally discuss any of these proposed plans at any point. The commission upholds preservation standards adopted by the city, which all private property owners must comply with on exterior changes to their buildings and sites in our districts. Should not the commission have been given the courtesy to review this plan and offer insight based on our design guidelines and how it might impact the character downtown? Streetscape design and materials play a key role in that character. I feel that the city should be held accountable to the same standards that are applied to private property owners who have invested millions, and I say millions of dollars in appropriate downtown building rehabilitation to help maintain that character. Other organizations that could have been involved in this process include Historic Stanton Foundation and the Stanton Downtown Development Association, which you have mentioned, thankfully. Since 1971, Historic Stanton Foundation has been instrumental in the preservation and revitalization of our historic resources. Their advocacy, programs, and education efforts are, in great part, the reason Stanton has become a recognized preservation leader and recognized leader in the preservation world, and a renowned tourist destination, which we all benefit from. From long thought efforts working with the city and VDOT to install underground utilities and brick sidewalks, to pushing for the creation of a local historic district zoning ordinance, the Historic Stanton Foundation has guided the city on preservation best practices for over 50 years. Their published statement about the project should be given great consideration. I wholeheartedly support their efforts. Is my time up?
Yes, I'll let you finish your sentence.
Okay,
If you just finish your sentence, and then if you have something left, you could give it to the.
Sure, I will send you my notes, but I do want to encourage you to perhaps create a task force with these community groups that could guide
Yes.
the rest of this effort.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. Your 5 minutes are up, but if you would like to, please email that or send it to Josh. That would be terrific. Mr. Knight, do we have anyone with their hand raised? Are you?
Yes, we have one hand raised.
Thank you. Go ahead, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brady Johnson. I live at 905 West Johnson Street. Thank you for your time. I just want to say thank you to all of council for your efforts, and congratulations on approving the flood resilience plan. I'm very excited to see where that goes in the future. I just want to say I am very excited for the highway safety improvement project. I've been following it for quite a while. I am a staunch pedestrian of Staunton. I have lived and worked downtown for going on 10 years now. I walk downtown every day, and it is overwhelming at times how ubiquitous vehicular traffic is. Overwhelmingly the majority, not just here, but everywhere. I think that the bump outs and the ADA compliant intersections are a fantastic idea. I would personally like to see Beverly Street permanently pedestrianized, but I think one lane would be incredible. I think there are ways to successfully implement this. I think slowing of traffic downtown is a great idea. As was mentioned in the study, it should not be treated as a thoroughfare. It should be treated as a destination. And yes, I'm very supportive of the project, and I think with public input and education, the public will come along as well and be supportive. And thank you very much. And thank you to Ms. Wilson and Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your call. All righty. Good evening. Welcome.
Hello.
Good.
My name is Jacob Krug. I'm a resident of the city of Stanton at Paul Street. Across the city's public communication channels, primarily via social media, there has been an increasing number of posts using AI-generated images. I find this to be a troubling trend for a number of reasons, and as a result, I'm calling on the city of Stanton to implement an internal policy banning the use of artificial intelligence in city-developed promotional or informational materials. It's an insult to the many visual artists and graphic designers living right here in the city of Stanton, and it's frankly tacky. I understand that it takes time, energy, and funds to produce these materials, and the allure of saving all three in the face of increasingly lean budgets is real. But our city government exists to serve the people, and cutting corners like this doesn't serve the people of Stanton in any meaningful way. In fact, it's out of alignment with the city's own vision and values. The first part of the city of Stanton's vision states that we are culturally rich. If we are truly a culturally rich city, government communication should reflect that. AI slop is the antithesis of culture. It's right there in the name, artificial. Using AI for this purpose also rejects all 5 of our shared values. It shows a loss of the city's integrity when AI slop is lazily used to represent the human-focused purpose of our city government. It violates the principles of inclusion and equity when local artists and designers are underutilized in favor of AI models that are overwhelmingly trained on datasets lacking the diversity and character of our own community. It's a rejection of excellence when our city government resorts to shoddy, tacky work rather than taking the time to craft things that will benefit Stantonians and instill civic pride. It harms engagement when messages get lost because of how they are communicated, eroding public trust. And most disappointing of all, the use of AI in this manner is not environmentally conscious. At a time when our electric bills are going up, when our region is threatened by severe drought, when housing costs are skyrocketing due to data center construction, the use of artificial intelligence by our local government isn't just irresponsible, it's a slap in the face to everything we as a city publicly claim to hold dear to us. I want to make it clear that I'm not anti-AI. I use AI for my job to help me with complex data analytics or advanced research, use cases that I would actually encourage the city to use AI for, things that could even be self-hosted and fully controlled with open-weight AI models and the city's existing technology infrastructure. But using AI to rapidly analyze trends and data sets with 500,000 entries is markedly different from using it to make a flyer for a creek cleanup day or a community art project. I commend the city for taking decisive action to terminate the invasive flock safety AI camera contract, with Stanton among the first local governments to do so. And I'm glad that the city is continuing to hold the line against construction of AI data centers, which would be a disaster for Stanton's quality of life. I am asking the city to be a leader on this issue by crafting an internal policy on AI use. And as part of that policy, restricting the use of AI-generated images and videos in any promotional or informational materials posted to city-controlled communication channels or used in presentations. Additionally, I ask that the city consider creating an AI advisory commission composed of Stanton residents to serve as the primary advisory body on AI use policies and procedures, contracts involving AI technologies, and AI development and environmental impacts. This rapidly changing technology is already having an outsized impact on how each and every one of us goes about our daily lives. Creating a dedicated commission to help answer the questions we all have about it will give the city a better way to navigate how to approach this new technology, while also giving Staunton residents the space to have their voices heard on this issue in a clear and methodical way. If we all meet this challenge head on and work together to find ways to use AI that align with Stanton's values, we have the potential to ensure a future where innovation, growth, and resilience coexist and thrive in our culturally rich and historic city. And I'm proud to disclose that this was written by a human with no AI assistance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krug. Do we have any hands raised on Zoom?
We have no hands raised at this time.
Is there anybody present who would like to speak?
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome, Mr. Barmer.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Mr. Blair. Thank you, Mr. Blair, for keeping it to yourself. It's very appreciated. As a immunocompromised person, I appreciate it. Few notes this evening. I'm going to leave the further disclosure of facts against the scurrilous libel of myself by the snooze leaker for another time. The lawfare continues. Don't worry, I'm still your favorite chattel. But we're going to continue about the matter at hand here this evening. I'd like to first of all begin with a couple of condolences. Several condolences. I'd like to thank the mayor for her appropriate remembrance of Miss Dolly Parton. American Quality Control Features and Comment Limited wishes to extend its heartfelt and earnest condolences to Miss Parton and her loved ones, and of course to the wider world and fandom of Miss Dolly Parton, and certainly to all the lives that she touched so beneficially through her generosity and her never forgetting that people have hard times and come from hard times. And she did what she could with her good fortune and with her wealth to give back in a tangible way and improve the lives of people who do not have her good fortune. And that is a very, very rare quality in people with wealth. She will be missed. Further than that, a great many people are suffering tonight. Some of you may have seen the terrifying images which emitted yesterday from the country of Nepal, where climate change is doing its thing. A glacier collapse led to a tremendous landslide, which in a matter of seconds overwhelmed thousands of people that were leisurely walking around a beautiful fortified tourist site. In one video I saw, others just walking through their city downtown were rapidly overwhelmed by 20 stories of earth and ice and water with no chance for survival. May God watch over them. Also, American Quality Control Features and Comment extends its heartfelt solidarity and condolences to the people still suffering in Gary, Indiana. That's right here in the United States, who have been abandoned by the United States federal government, even the authorities in Indiana, who is, of course, suffering after catastrophic flooding throughout the state. Climate change is not going to stop while city councils, boards of supervisors pass their issues to some other council down the road. We also extend our heartfelt solidarity and condolences to the still suffering people of Venezuela. And then lastly, the news that the actor Tim Curry, also 80 years old, passed yesterday. American Quality Control Features and Comment Limited would like to extend our heartfelt condolences to his loved ones and to the wider community of fans and actors who were inspired by his antics and his many characters of note. Lastly, let me say, I would like to thank Ms. Wilson and Ms. Hughes for their very detailed and educational presentations about public safety, which once again, this city can't seem to support for poor people. For the disabled, of course, because the historic preservation of the living mausoleums of urban renewal, redlining, Jim Crow, the Black Codes, and chattel slavery are still somehow more urgent than civilian and visitor safety, which of course is wild AF in 2026. Get your heads out of your asses, start taxing historic preservation.
Thank you. Mr. Knight, do we have anyone with their hand raised on Zoom?
We have no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Would the next person like to speak?
Good evening, members of council.
Good evening,
Thank you
Mr.
for your service and thank you for the work you have done to study the Beverly Street improvements and for reaching out to us through Historic Stanton Foundation, having some nice conversations. I also appreciate Leslie reaching out and speaking with me as well. We don't need to go over all the various details and things, but I think it's extremely important in the public meetings that very clear visual representations of what is going to occur to Beverly Street in the downtown area is very upfront and very well done to scale. So that people clearly understand the changes that are involved. We do have an award-winning downtown, and there's a reason for that because the committees that sat down with SDDA, the Virginia Main Street Program, Historic Stanton Foundation, local architects, designers, landscape architects, all of the above who worked very hard on this. That is why it became an award-winning streetscape. Going all the way back to Mayor Frank Pancake, whose desire was to bury the power lines. We're talking a long time ago. We're talking going back to the 70s. This has been a Staunton plan. It is challenging. It is frustrating to see that the Federal Highway Administration, VDOT, et cetera, have come up with examples that are so hard and fast that a beautiful community like this is going to end up with bright white, yellow, pink, dayglow orange, what have you. I've seen the list. They have those listed as acceptable colors for these stripes that go on either side of a crosswalk. We are going to lose a great deal of the character of this downtown, authentic materials, brick, stone, painted metal, the things that reflect its not only Victorian character, its colonial revival character, anyway, the evolution of the downtown historically. We are recovering from decisions made in 1940s, in the 1950s to crowd the downtown with traffic, to move traffic down as efficiently as they possibly could. It is recorded in the newspaper, probably in the council minutes. And we are trying hard to recover from that. It seems like we're hitting some bumps along the road. We look forward to working with you. We encourage you very strongly to engage the Main Street program, their landscape architects, and the people that do streetscapes like this all over Virginia. There are other communities in Virginia that also have award-winning main streets, and we need to get back to that point. I would also encourage, whenever possible, however it can be budgeted and timed, we have got to clean the sidewalks. We need to fix the areas that are broken. As was pointed out tonight, we have weeds, cracks all over the downtown. We have people putting out in their garbage large quantities of grease, and it is spewing all over the street and sidewalks. It is gross. I come to work in the morning. You can smell it on a Monday morning. We need to do a better job of our downtown in all neighborhoods. No neighborhood should have to be dealing with it. But boy, downtown, when you have all the restaurants and things with industrial levels of grease, that should not be on the sidewalk and on the streets on a Monday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strassler. Mr. Knight, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
We have no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Mr. Dettelbach, you're not in line. Okay, is anyone? No one else wants to speak? Oh, okay. I wasn't daring you, Mr. Westenberg.
I apologize for making it so late. My name is Johann Westenberg, 113 West Beverly Street. I'm obviously here to speak about the STARS survey from 2022. There's a lot to parse, obviously, and what I really just want to get down to is that the STARS survey dates back to 2022, and there were 487 respondents on that survey. The city of Stanton's 26,000. That means that less than 2% of the population had an opinion about what was about to happen. Now we're 4 years down the pike. Having listened to the transportation planner and obviously recognizing that the $2.18 million grant that's on the table is really not a realistic number. It's going to be a lot more expensive. And I think everybody recognizes that. Betterment, the part of the grant that the city would have to pony up for, is going to be the largest share of that. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But at the same time, it's betterment that drives the tourism industry. It's betterment that creates a community. It's betterment that makes the ADA compliance integrate beautifully with a city that has been worked on so hard by people over the past decades since the 1970s. So artists throw out work all the time. And I can tell you a story about a particular artist. He would line up 10 canvases, work on those 10 canvases, and he'd keep one. It doesn't make sense to me that the STARS survey from 2022 is considered the holy grail of a data set when you only have 487 responses, and so much has changed since 2022. I hope that we can maybe reconsider and do a new survey. And that's what I wanted to say. So thank you for your time. Appreciate all your work. I appreciate you as a council listening so hard to the casual survey that happened later in the summer after the demonstration.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Mr. Knight, do we have any?
We have no hands raised.
Righty. Thank you. Please give me 1 second. I want to apologize. I made a mistake earlier in what I said in response to Mr. Airwood. I earned my master's degree in 1995 in special education. And when I said ADA was from the 1990s, I was completely wrong. ADA was signed in 1990, but its predecessor, its precursor was 1975. And so I apologize for that. It was the rehabilitative bill or act. And so I apologize. I got that wrong. And the IDEA, of course, which was the updated landmark special education bill, was 1997. So
And the American Dental Association goes back even farther.
I imagine so. We all have teeth. So I apologize for that. Thank you for the grace. Having spoken, I will call the Staunton City Council meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming, everyone. I appreciate your involvement and for being here.